Hey, what's up everybody? It's Rob from Instinct Bassin. Thanks so much for tuning back into another video. In today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different. I've got some carpet that's coming up here. As you can see, this is on the console of my boat. And what I'm going to do is just replace this carpet with EVA foam decking. It'll be a little bit better looking, be better on your feet. Hopefully it'll also allow for a little bit better drainage, because this carpet gets really wet when it rains, and then it takes, a week to get dry. So EVA foam decking is a closed cell foam, so it won't absorb water nearly as much as carpet will, and hopefully that water will run off into the drains a lot better as well. So what they did was they sent me a template kit, basically a marker, some samples, and then some clear mylar sheeting. And that mylar sheeting, I'm going to use it to basically trace the outline of this console, the console carpet. There's obviously more expensive and higher tech ways to do that. This is just a low tech, accurate way without having to spend a bunch of money on a machine that'll actually do it for you. I'll trace it out, I'll send it back to them, and then they'll use their machine there to make a perfect outline of this. They also sent some samples in, so I'm going to match the carpet as well as I can, and hopefully it'll look pretty good when I get done. So I'm going to reset the camera here and then get started and show you how I go about doing this mylar sheeting. So when you order this sheeting, you can tell them how many sheets you want. I just asked for one sheet because I figured that would cover it. The sheet is a little bit longer than the width that I need, so I just I measured it out 60 inches, drew a couple lines there. I'm going to cut that down just to make it fit a little bit better. All right, so I've got this mylar sheeting laid out now. It's okay if there's a few wrinkles in it. You're going to trace along that edge anyway. Just make sure you tape it down so it doesn't move while you're tracing or anything like that. You can cut here. See, I cut there, but not all the way to the ground, or not all the way to the deck. I cut there just to kind of get around that corner, and then I'll trim that excess off before I send it in. That's basically it. So, all right, I'm going to get to tracing now, and then get that sheet laid out. All right, so what I've done is now, I trimmed this edge down a little bit just so it would fit a little better here. You don't want to trim it all the way to the, to this outline. You want to use the marker to draw that instead, mainly because if you trim it all the way to the outline, it could end up being too short once they cut it and then not fitting. So you definitely want to use the mylar itself and then trace along it. I'm going to go ahead and tape this down just so it doesn't move around while I trace, and I'll have to do a little bit more cutting as well, but we'll come back with that process and show you how it works. Alright, so now I've cut those edges a little bit. Notice again, I didn't come all the way to the edge. You don't want to cut all the way to the black. I just got close to it. I could have really left it just like it was earlier, but kind of a perfectionist, so I tried to cut around it a little bit, cut off some of the excess. They also ask you to label things like that, like drain, and then put your info on there and what color you like. This is that storm gray that I'm getting. It's as close to my deck as possible, and I think it'll look great down there on the console floor. They also ask you to label it bow, stern, port, starboard, that kind of thing. And then top side just tells them which side up, the side up that you're using. It's kind of obvious once you start writing other things on it, but you get the idea. So now I'm going to roll that up, fill out the rest of the paperwork, and put it back in that box and send it out. And we'll be back in hopefully about a week or so when they send in the actual decking to put it on. So one thing I should mention is this stuff is priced by the sheet. So if you didn't use all the sheet, you might as well take advantage of some of the extra plastic. So I figured I taped this down to the side here. This is the port side by the handrail. That's the port side seat. And I thought it'd look kind of cool to put some there as well. If it comes in and it doesn't look good, I won't have to use it. But you might as well use the sheeting, because they're going to price it by the sheet anyway, not by the actual amount of pieces that are cut. So take advantage of any extra plastic you have, extra mylar, do things like this. just to add a little bit of detail to it. And like I said, if it doesn't look good, you don't have to use it. All right, and so this just goes along with that, having extra material. I've got this extra sheet here. Now I thought about just doing that area, which I think would look cool, and I may still end up doing that. But I've been meaning to get rid of this middle seat anyway. One, it's coming apart right here, and I don't want to pay to recarpet it or reupholster it. Plus, it's just real mushy, and nobody ever sits there. So I think what I'm going to do is just take this seat out and then use that plastic and then put some foam there, and we'll see how that looks. What I have done was I ordered what's called a Dryfit, which is basically the plastic cut out as to how I drew it last time when it was in the big piece. So I sent it back to them, had to pay shipping and all that, and that's fine. But what they'll do is actually cut the plastic the way that you drew it, and then send it to you as if you were going to put it in your boat. And obviously the reason I sent them that to begin with, you don't have to do it, but I did that because I didn't feel like I got really great measurements when I did it, when it was one big piece of plastic. So I went ahead and sent that in, and now what I've done is I've laid their Dryfit out to kind of fine tune it, if you will. And in my case, you know, it may be more than just fine tuning. What I found useful was to put on socks though, and try to get out as many wrinkles as I can using my feet, because my knees and hands and everything, especially here in the Florida heat, kind of stick to the plastic and make it just cumbersome to try to get it done. So now what I'm going to try to do, and what I recommend doing, is trying your best to ignore the black marks that their machine has made, and just trace over it again with the red marker that they provide for the Dryfit, and make sure you take pictures and everything and then send them in along with it. As you can see, just some areas, you know, don't quite line up like I would have liked them to. And you know, that's my fault probably. It's just cumbersome with that big piece of plastic trying to lay it in here and get it perfect, which is the reason I asked for the Dryfit. It's better to, you know, make the mistakes in this stage than to have them cut it, then it not fit, and then you potentially have to, you know, pay for it twice, having to get them to recut it. So they're great to work with. So definitely, you know, kind of recommend doing this if you are having a, you know, an area that's kind of an awkward shape like this one is, and it's kind of hard to get into and lay that piece of plastic down. I recommend getting that Dryfit. I know I'm glad I did. All right, so stay tuned for the next portion. This is what it looks like after you get done doing that Dryfit part here in Florida in late spring. It's a little hot. Just thought I'd throw this in here as well. You want to make sure that you get some of this, what they call craft packaging tape. This is a 2-inch roll that I just got off Amazon. I think it was $8 or something like that for 50 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Reason being is because you want to tape the stuff down while you draw it. Otherwise, it's just going to move all over the place and you're just going to be chasing it the whole time. But, you know, this stuff also comes off easily and doesn't rip the... Sorry, my alarm went off there. It comes off easily and doesn't rip the plastic. And then also, you know, comes off the boat easily as well. So obviously easier to do with 2 hands than 1. So just make sure you use that kind of tape instead of any other kind of packaging tape or anything like that. And there's just some examples of where, you know, the first line that I drew wasn't quite in line with the other one. And that's just because of, you know, it's shifting around. Maybe, you know, maybe I just didn't do a good enough job drawing it the first time. And then, like I said, just trying to get that, you know, big piece of plastic as close as you can the first time, and then hopefully just fine tuning it with this Dryfit. Like I said before, those guys at Aqua Marine Deck are real great to work with, and they'll help you out. They also put in the instructions to make sure that you use that red pen that they sent, because that's what identifies it as a Dryfit, or that's where the corrections need to be made, I should say. And then also you want to take pictures so they can see what you've done here, just in case there's any questions or anything like that. And of course, put your phone number and everything on it so they know that I get a hold of you in case there's any questions as well. All right, so removing that carpet was about as fun as I thought it would be. Actually getting the carpet from under those drains was kind of the hardest part. But it actually wasn't stuck down as much as I thought it'd be. But now the cleanup comes, and because all that's got to be cleaned off before we can start trying to stick any kind of product down. So on to that next, but at least the carpet's up. So this is about, I don't know, an hour later, maybe, not quite. It's not going that bad. I'm basically using a paint scraper with the help of acetone and just a white rag. So, and the shop vac. So what I basically did was I took the shop vac first to remove all the big debris. Then I started laying down the acetone, went with the paint scraper to remove the bigger sections of glue. And now I'm going back with the acetone and the rag to overhand these sections. So it may be a little overboard, but if you've ever painted or laid down any kind of adhesive like that, like we're going to here, you know that surface prep is going to be the key, or at least half the battle. So I'm trying to go take as much time as I can getting this done. I'm actually going to take a little break, and then I'll come back and do the rest here in a little bit. All right, so this was about, I don't know, 2.5 hours worth of work, but I think it was definitely worth it. Like I said, I used the acetone, the shop vac, these rags, and then some gloves, of course. But it's about as clean as I'm going to be able to get it, I think. So now it's time to lay the material down, tape half of it down, and then start installing. So we're getting there. Okay, so I've taken the piece and laid it back in here, and I gotta say, unless I mess this up, it's gonna look great. They've definitely done a great job of cutting it and making it fit, and making all the corrections that I made with that Dryfit. What I've done now is I've taped off just basically half of it. So I've taped off half of it, and then I also taped up this handle right here just so it wouldn't get in the way. And now what I'm going to basically do is lift up the other half, lift that up, cut a small slit on the underside, obviously, and I'm going to do it using this blade basically just like that. You don't want to shoot it out like that, because then you run the risk of going right through the material, which would be a bad day. So very small cut. Just need to score the surface a little bit. And then from there, I'm going to fold it basically just about 1 inch out on either side to just stick that middle part down, and then just slowly start working my way toward that direction to get that right side stuck down. And that's kind of the process that they recommend. You definitely don't want to just try to stick this thing all down at once, because it is so sticky. You do not get more than one shot at it. It will stick down and you will be stuck trying to rip it all up. Okay, so that went successfully. Got one side down. Like I said, I just cut a slit in here. I actually ended up taking it back out and found that just because of how irregular this shape is, that it was easier to just cut it, or not cut it, but slit it in half on the deck over here, obviously on the back, and then lay it back in there so I could grab it easily without trying to cut it while it was laying down like this. So whatever works best for you. And then I can't stress enough, just going slow. Peel off a little bit of the backing at a time, kind of unroll it a little bit, press it down, unroll it a little bit, press down, and then just keep going all the way through, and don't rush it, and then it'll come out looking great. All right, so on to the next side. All right, well, it is all in. So the backing is all off. There's all the backing. So I just did the same process on this side. Let me tell you, it's real soft on your feet. Feels really good. There's a couple of areas where it doesn't quite match up, but like I said, I may remove this black weather stripping anyway. I'll just have to fill those holes. But that's more my measuring than their cutting. So they did a really great job, like there too. But I can live with that. All in all, I think it looks great. Nobody's really going to notice that unless you're really looking for it. So I think it came out great. The only thing left to do now is basically get this roller and just roll it down to make sure I get good adhesive or adhesion. It does take about 14 pounds of pressure to get on there. You know, I'm walking on it and that probably helps. This is such a tight fit though. They did such a good job cutting this that I probably wouldn't even really need to, just because it fits so well that I don't think anything is going to come up. But I'm going to go around it, push these edges down really well just to make sure. I'm real happy with it. So we'll give my my thoughts about the whole process here in the next clip, and yeah, that was basically the install. Okay, so I figured I would give my overall final thoughts on this whole process. I should have said at the beginning of the video, I'm not sponsored by Aqua Marine Deck at all. They didn't give me any product to use for free or anything like that. This cost about $300 for the product. And then, you know, I had to purchase some other tools and whatnot to get it installed. So I think that price is going to be pretty common no matter what brand you go with. I will say, full disclosure, that I'm now a dealer with Aqua Marine Deck. And if you're interested in getting this product installed, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and we'll work out how to get a hold of each other, and I can get you started with that process. Like I said, the whole process took about a month and a half to get everything done. Now, I added probably 2.5 to 3 weeks to that by ordering that Dryfit, and it's also right at the busy time frame. But I will say, this isn't something that you can just order and expect to have it in a week and then be done with it. So I would definitely either do like I did. I wasn't in any rush because I already had carpet there, even though I wanted to get it replaced. But it wasn't causing any hindering my fishing or anything like that. Or you can do it in the off season, which is what a lot of people do. When the boat's in storage or something like that. I would definitely recommend either using a dealer or making sure that you are comfortable installing something like this, because like I said in the video, you only get one shot at putting it down correctly. Otherwise, it is a pain to get up. I've had to do it before, and it is not fun at all. So, but other than that, I definitely recommend it. It's going to work out great for me because I needed that extra drainage and I wanted to get rid of that carpet anyway. But yeah, those are my overall impressions on it. It's Aqua Marine Deck's a great company to work with, and I definitely recommend going with them if you're going to do this. And then I realized in the video when I was editing it that I didn't really discuss what I ended up doing with that console. So I ended up getting a piece made right there, and that white piece that you see up there is actually a piece of starboard that I had custom made to go back there. It's just plain white. I think it cost 30 bucks maybe. And then I've been wanting a console here, so I ended up getting a gun box and using heavy duty Velcro to stick it down like that. So it's actually working out really well. So that's what replaced the seat area for those that are interested. Thanks so much for watching this video. It's almost summertime and it's a great time to catch busting fish or breaking fish. So be sure and check out this video right here on how I talk about 3 different methods to catch busting fish or breaking fish. Thanks so much again for watching. This is Rob from Instinct Bassin. Trust your gut, and I'll see you on the water.